Hello and welcome back to the Reapers. Today we're in our A-4E Skyhawk and we're looking at air-to-ground rockets. Now this aircraft is an absolute rocket monster. It can carry so many rockets, it's bloody awesome. First thing we're going to do is open up the Armament menu and see what we can have. So we'll start on the outer pylons, pylons 1 and 5. We can have single pods of rockets on these and we get them in a flavour of... We get a LAO-10 launcher which contains 4 times large caliber Zuni high explosive fragmentation rockets. We get a LAO-3 launcher which carries 19 2.75 inch FR rockets, I think they're 2.75 inch, with a Willy Pete white phosphorus warhead or high explosive warhead or a high explosive anti-tank warhead. Or we get LAO-68 containing 7 times 2.72 inch rockets, which are the parachute illumination. For these you'll want to fire them high up above a target, then they'll parachute down and illuminate the battlefield. And the same LAO-68 launcher with 7 2.75 inch rockets, FR, with again Willy Pete high explosive and high explosive anti-tank. And on the inner pylon, so that's pylons 2 and 4, we can have essentially multiples. We can have multiples of that. So rather than one LAO-10, we can have 2 times LAO-10. So that's 8 Zuni rockets on each pylon. Or we can have up to 2 times LAO-3, so that's 19 times 2, 38 FR rockets. Or we could have 2 times LAO-68 pods with 7 rockets in each pod. And if you want the big bertha, we go to central pylon, pylon 3, rockets, and we can have up to 3 launchers. So 3 times LAO-10, 3 times LAO-3, or 3 times LAO-68. So you can have so many rockets. And you know what? That's exactly what we're going to do. So before we arm up, we need to open our canopy. Our engine's already turned off. You need your engine off and canopy open, so we can talk to the ground crew. Back on. So, in the central pylon, we're going to have rockets. We're going to have a LAO-3 launcher times 3, so that is 57 rockets there in 3 pods. The pylons 2 and 4, we're going to have rockets LAO-3s again times 2. And we're going to take heat. And on the outside, we could carry another bunch of FRs, another couple of LAO-3s, but instead we're going to go for something different. We're going to go for the LAO-10 Zunis.
Copy.
Okay, while we're waiting for that, let's go and have... look at the controls for today. Almost nothing. We'll need to get to our armament panel. To get to our armament panel, we'll need to turn our stick off, which is hide show control stick. And we need to fire. We're going to be using weapon fire today. Okay. That is just simply an amazing amount of rockets. Now we're going to look at arming the rockets up and how to use them. We would usually do this armament in the air, but just to make the video easier, we're going to do it on the ground. So hide stick. First of all, we want our master function mode in rockets. Be very careful not to accidentally put it in bombs GMR, which you usually use for most other things. If you do that and press the trigger or bomb release, you'll actually drop these pods. I've done that by accident. Very annoying. Make sure it's in rockets there. Make sure your master arm is on there. Left or right click will do that. Make sure your guns are turned to safe. If your guns are turned to ready, then when you fire the rockets, you will also fire your internal cannons, which is just pointless because you'll be on the wrong trajectory completely for guns. So safe that. It says in the manual to always have arm, nose and tail for rockets. I don't know whether they'll explode without that, but we'll go with that as gospel. Next, we need to arm the pylons that we want to use. Now, we're going to use the Zunis and the the FRs differently. We could fire them all together, but just to keep things simple, we're going to use the FRs, the 2.75s on their own. So I've selected pylons 2, 3 and 4. They're in the up position. You could do that left or right click with the mouse, and we've got those 3 pylons selected now for firing. Now we've got these chaps down here which we can use to decide how we're going to fire these. First of all, on the left, AWRS. This is ripple quantity. This is how many weapons, this could be bombs or it could be rockets, you want to fire essentially with the press of a button. We've currently got it off, and you can see because it's off, the power light is on. And if we change it, and now we can't change it at the moment. Oh yes, we can with right click. Now it's not working at the moment because we've got our engine off, but I'll show you in the air that we can change that to different ripple amounts. Next, we've got our drop interval. This is the amount of milliseconds between each rocket fire in our ripple. So we've got 20 milliseconds, 50 milliseconds, 80 milliseconds, up to 200 milliseconds. And we've also got a multiplier switch here. So if rather than say 200 milliseconds between each ripple, between each fire, each weapon fire, we could do this times 10, and that would then be 2,000 milliseconds between each fire, or i.e. 2 seconds between each fire. I don't know why you'd ever want to do that, but that option is there if you want longer between your intervals. Next, we've got our firing mode. This is divided into 2, step and ripple. In step, you get single, pairs, and salvo. In ripple, you get single, pairs, and salvo. So generally speaking, if I were to have it on step and single and press the fire button once, I would get one rocket come out from the pods that I've got selected, so literally one rocket. And then if I kept pressing the button many times, it would fire one rocket at a time until all of these pods were empty. If I were going to go to pairs, then it would fire 2 rockets at a time with equal priority on the pods that I've got selected. It wouldn't work if I've got less than 2 pods selected, so I'd have to have at least 2 pods selected. And it fires in pairs with each press of the trigger, pretty obviously. Salvo, with one press of the trigger, we're going to fire all of the rockets from the selected pods combined, the amount that we've got set here in our AWRS. So if I had it set to 9 there, and I had it set to step salvo, and I had my 3 pylons selected here, it would fire a total of 3 rockets per pylon with one press of the trigger, totaling a total count of 9. Then we've got Ripple. Now Ripple, I've read in the manual, is about to change. In the version that we have at the moment, this is going to be wrong, what I'm going to tell you, but the future version is what I'm going to tell you, and therefore if you're watching this video later on, this is going to be more relevant. So, single Ripple. If I press and hold the fire trigger, it will keep firing single rockets, i.e. one at a time, until we've met the total quantity in this selector here. So if I had 9 selected, it would fire 1 at a time, varying which pylon that one rocket fired from each time, and it will keep going until we've reached our amount here. And if it's off, AWRS is off, then I believe it keeps firing until all pylons are expended. Pairs, essentially the same. As long as you've got more than one pylon selected, it's going to fire 2 rockets at a time, dispersed between the different pylons, and it'll keep going until it's reached the number here, or until they're dry if AWRS is off. And salvo, if you press and hold the trigger, it will keep firing single weapons from all of the pylons selected at the same time, so 1, 2 and 3, so 3 rockets at a time, until it's again reached the quantity here, or if it's off, then until all of the pylons are dry. So regards Ripple, you'll press and hold the trigger down, and while you're doing that, then the weapons will fire, as I explained, based on the interval in milliseconds here. And for the steps here, it will only pulse the weapons once when you press the trigger. So for step, you press the trigger several times. For Ripple, you push down and hold the trigger, and it will release at these intervals. The version that I'm using at the moment, version 1.02 at the time of making this video, I'll explain what the ripples do. The single is as explained before, except it just keeps going until it runs dry. It does not rely on the quantity here. The pairs, exactly the same. Pairs, it fires pairs again, but it does not listen to the AWRS. It runs until the pylons are dry. And salvo, in this version I'm using at the moment, it fires the amount set in here of the AWRS rockets per pulse, and between the pulse, while you're pressing the trigger, and between the pulses is set by the interval here. So that's just something to bear in mind at the time of making this video. Okay, so let's neutralize everything for now, and then we're going to go and start up and take off. Okay, we're in the air now. We've got some bad guys in front of us on the road down there. Just going to go over our checks to make sure we've got everything good. Guns off. Arm, nose and tail. Pylons 2, 3 and 4 all turned on. Whoops, I need to turn this back to rockets. Master arm is on. Quantity I'm going to turn off here because I want to go for infinite. Drop interval I'm going to change to 50 milliseconds. Multiplier 1. I'm going to go for Ripple single. And what I'm going to do is basically pull and hold the trigger, and the rockets are going to come out one after another, 20 a second, whatever that is, with 50 milliseconds until all 3 pylons and all of the LAOs are depleted. Now, regards our bombing profile, if I bring up the ballistics depression page here, you can see we've got different ballistics from the Zuni to the FRs, but you can see that the 2 that I've highlighted with each weapon overlap. So those are the ones that we're going to learn and memorize. So we've got a dive angle of 10 degrees, we've got a dive speed of 400 knots IAS, we've got a weapon release of 3,000 feet AGL, and a gun sight depression of 38 millimeters. So regards to the 3,000 feet drop or weapon release, we're going to use our radar altimeter here, and you can see the 3,000 is there, should be fairly easy to spot. Regarding the 10 degrees dive, ADI here, it's going to be this mark here. We're going to line our kind of yellow horizon up with, so it's not much of a dive. Speed, we've got our speedo here in IAS already, and depression we'll have to change with this little chap here, and that's going to depress the gun sight 38 mils, so let's get that done. Okay, about there. What we're going to do is we're going to go past the target. We're going to climb to 6,000 feet. We can fly above, 6,000 being minimum, I find. Then we're going to get in a 10-degree dive, get up to speed at 400 knots. And when we're down to 3,000 feet, we will push, pull and hold the trigger for the specified bomb release, rocket release as shown, with the target illuminated in our crosshair there. So let's go and get that done. Okay, up to altitude, turning in now. Full power pretty much all the time for this because we're very draggy and we need to get up to 400 knots. Okay, target is in front of us now. Just setting my trim for the dive. Getting up to speed now, 400 knots. See the radar altimeter start to come down on the right. We're not quite ready yet. Haven't got enough angle, so we're going to aim up. Now we're going to aim a little bit further. Okay, I think that's enough. That's 10 degrees of dive, perfect. Just waiting to come on speed and down to altitude. On speed, altitude now. That wasn't very good. I don't know, we kind of got them. That was interesting. So you get the idea there. Just to recap, 400 knots, 3,000 on the radar altimeter, 10 degrees descent, and 38 millimeters depression there. Right, now let's go around and use our Zunis. I'll do something different this time. I will use step. So we can control the pairs ourselves. We're going to turn these pylons off, turn these pylons on. And we'll just fire 4 sets of pairs until we're Winchester. Okay, at altitude now, turning in. Full power rolling in. 4,500 feet. 4,000 feet. 3,500 feet. Pretty much on speed. 3,000 feet, and let's do it. Oh, I'm such a bad shot. And that is our rockets gone. And that's our Zuni's gone. I think I was slightly off angle there. I wasn't quite at 10 degrees, hence the missiles went a little bit further forwards. It shows how accurate you've got to be, especially if you're shooting from a high distance like 3,000 feet. You've got to get everything, your 10 degrees, your speed, everything right. So it's going to require a little bit of practice, but you get the idea. Now, once you've shot your rockets and you've got empty pods, they're a lot of weight and they're a lot of drag you don't want. So what we can do is drop them now. So we're going to select all of our pylons. Ping, ping, ping. We're going to turn this to bombs, and then we're going to push and hold the weapon release button. And as if by magic, it's dropped all of the bombs. All of the pylons. So you're nice and drag free now. And just to quickly show you, the bomb weapon release button is that one there instead of the trigger. Right, that's everything I've got to say on rockets. Go and have an experiment, try all the different options down here and see what you can get out of them. I hope that helps, and see you later.